This film actually, like, I didn't want to make a film at first. I didn't think we were going to make a film. Basically, I was working in LA in advertising, and I did a Facebook job, and suddenly I was rich, and I was like, fuck it, guys, I'm out of here. And so I like moved to China to go skateboarding, and because the city Chengdu is the best city for skateboarding in the world, like hands down. And so I moved back to Chengdu. I had lived there before to learn Chinese and shoot my senior thesis in film school, and I loved it. And so like I moved back in 2018, and I was just skating and hanging out with Gena, the Russian DJ character.
I could have clipped about 20 parts of this interview. 30, 50. The Last Year of Darkness is blowing up your screen on Mubi right now. IndieWire gave it an A, which I've never seen. Ben Mullinkosson is here to share how he made it happen. Welcome to First Time Go. I'm Benjamin Duchek. I changed the music for this podcast because I love this episode so much. Enjoy. Good day, Ben Mullinkosson, the director of The Last Year of Darkness. Ben, how are you today on this premiere of your film on Mubi?
Oh, it's great. We're so excited. Yeah, thanks for having me on here. It's good to be talking to another Ben.
Bens are great. So the film is, it's hard for me not to use expletives when it comes to describing how awesome I thought this film was. But it's fucking fantastic. It really blew me away from the first shot. Like I turned it on and I'm thinking, oh, okay, this is really interesting. This is not shot like any documentary that I've ever seen. And it continues on that way in a way that, Frank, I have to be careful with my words because it makes it sound like maybe this guy is hyping something up too much. But it was almost like I was watching a different art form than what I normally would feel for a documentary. Have you heard that before? Is that what you set out to make?
A little bit. I mean, so like, first of all, I'm glad that you feel that way because we did spend years trying to figure out how to create the structure and how to map this film out. And I think both of the editor of the film and me and all of our collaborators too, producers and the protagonists of the film, we're all really drawn to fiction films and the language that is made up of fiction films. And so even doing little decisions, we made like a set of rules for this film of how we wanted to, like what we wanted to do to tell the story in a certain way. And some of them are like kind of pretentious documentary rules, but I think that they did make a difference to make it feel more like a fiction film. And so some of those rules include, but are not limited to, we didn't want to have any interviews or have anything feel like an interview. We didn't want to have voiceover or anything that feels like voiceover. And we didn't want to have the formula of somebody talking and then we have B-roll, like the standard, like here's something in B-roll. Like we wanted to avoid that. And we also didn't want to have any music in the film that wasn't captured in the spot. And we ended up breaking that rule. Kimberly composed a couple of the tracks on the traditional Chinese instrument. So she scored the film. Like she's the composer of the film, which is pretty cool. But other than that, all music is just captured in the club. We did have, or like in the club or like in the, whenever we were filming, there's just music in the background and we use that, which was a little bit of a licensing nightmare. But also what's cool is our sound designers were really good. We worked with U2 Kim Woo and they're based in Brooklyn, and they were able to, if there's a conversation going on in the club, they could remove the music from the background and isolate the conversation, and then we could add another song to the background. So sometimes some of the songs were too expensive for us to license, and in which case we would replace it with a song that David would create. David Paralig Molinherno from U2 Kim Woo. He created a lot of the songs, and I think there are some other songs that are created by DJs in Chengdu when the song to license was too expensive. or we weren't able to license it with fair use. So yeah, like those are some of the rules that we tried to set out in this. And I think another one that I would love to mention, and feel free to like, I can rant for a long time.
No,
So
I
like
love this so much. Go on, Ben. Yeah, no, I love this so much.
I think the other rule is that this is a film starring all of my friends in Chengdu. And so to me it's really important that the protagonists of the film are cool with the film. Like I didn't want to make something that anybody felt harmed by.
Right.
And so every piece of footage that's in the film we've reviewed with the protagonist, and we've actually had conversations of like, okay, what do you want your narrative arc to be, and what would be an arc that we can make a movie out of. And as a result we would remove scenes from the film, and then we would also recreate scenes that they were interested, or like, yeah, like scene, like moments in their life that have happened that we weren't able to film, that we then recreated with their writing of the script. So they would
Right.
basically be like, okay, like like my roommate and I, we had this fight and when the power went out and neither of us were doing well financially, and it was his turn to pay, but he was like fucked up and wanted me to pay. And like, so that moment we recreated, and we just
Right.
like we shot it in a way where everyone can act as a version of themselves and perform. And like, I'm sure I'm not the first person to say it, but like every time that anybody's filming or anything's happening, or even like right now when we're doing this conversation, we're performing as versions of ourselves. It's never, I would never say that anything on camera is 100% authentic to how it would be. And I think that's like a common misconception with documentary filmmaking. And so yeah, like by working with the protagonists of the film to write their stories and then take what their ideas are to a writer. We had a writer, her name is Lydia Hansha, and she's based in Beijing. And she would then like come to Chengdu, and we would get drunk with the protagonist, and then we talk about like, okay, what kind of stories do we want to tell? And then we would write a script and then take the script back to the protagonist and be like, okay, how does this feel? And they'd be like, I'd never say this, but then they would improvise their own dialogue. And so it's always a conversation, it's always a collaboration. And I feel like I haven't done so much of that before, but I feel like in this in this documentary landscape it's really important to me to not just like, you know, shoot something and then create my own story. I think it's important to have this collaboration.
I love that so much, and it touches on so many things I think about when I'm watching a documentary, and it sounds like your team thought about all these things too, right? Like the idea that I don't want to have just a talking head documentary. I don't want to show like newspaper clippings and then B-roll. And
Yeah.
I don't want to be inauthentic to the viewer. So one of the things I'm really hung up on in documentaries is that you need to almost sell yourself out to even film a documentary, right? Like if you come to me and say, "Hey Ben, I want to make a film about, your work." Well, I'm not going to share anything with you that makes me look bad. Like it's
Yeah.
already
Yeah.
fake, right? It's already like you're already making concessions to
Yeah.
make the film. So why not make it like you made it, where it's sort of like almost a collaborative? I feel like we're making like documentary film professors' heads explode with this conversation, but like, why not make it almost a collaborative process that gets to a deeper truth?
Yeah, I completely agree. It's really cool because we showed the film yesterday at Chapman University, which is where I went to film
Oh,
school,
cool.
and so did the editor of the film, Bobby Mosier, went there, and so did the producer of the film, Sol Yet. Like we all went to Chapman, and we met at Chapman, and it was cool because we're having this conversation, and like 10 years ago when I was in film school, the way we were taught is that you don't show the film to your protagonist
Right.
until it's done or like at the premiere,
Right.
and I feel
Exactly.
like that was what was written in the like in the books that we're studying, you know what I mean?
Right.
But since then I feel like it's really changed, and I feel like if you ask a majority of observational filmmakers who are working in this space, I'm curious what they would say. because I think that a lot of people would side with the opinion that the protagonist should see the film before it comes out. But, other people might be more hardcore and be like, no, like they don't, it's not their space to see it. But I don't know. For me, it was important because I value my relationships with the people on camera. And yeah, like we still talk every day. When it came out on Movie Today, like we shared a video and everyone's like, damn, we're on Movie, like front page, like check it
Right. Yeah.
out.
It's not like a back page. Like they're sending out ads. When you watch a film, it gets like the trailer for your film plays. Like they're, I mean, rightfully so. It's like it's blowing people's minds right now. So Ben, can you walk me through like what made you decide to like take on this challenge? Like, how did you get from Chapman being taught like a very traditional way of documentary to making like breaking the genre?
Well, I don't know if we broke the genre, but I appreciate you saying that. I mean, I think that would be cool, but I'm really inspired by so many filmmakers, like I'm definitely not the first to do this. There's so many amazing films that have like inspired this, and I can tell you our references, but I think first I'll tell you like how this film started. The This film actually, like, I didn't want to make a film at first. I didn't think we were going to make a film. Basically, I was working in LA in advertising, and I did a Facebook job, and suddenly I was rich, and I was like, fuck it, guys, I'm out of here. And so I like moved to China to go skateboarding, and because the city Chengdu is the best city for skateboarding in the world, like hands down. And so I moved back to Chengdu. I had lived there before to learn Chinese and shoot my senior thesis in film school, and I loved it. And so like I moved back in 2018, and I was just skating and hanging out with Gena, the Russian DJ character. And then he's like, "Yo, I'm playing tonight at Funky Town. Come to the party. I'm playing with my friends Darkle and Kimberly. We have a party called Charlie's Angels." And so like I went to their party and I met Darkle and Kimberly, who are the two of the protagonists of the film. And then I'm just like drinking plum wine, which is the local drink from Chengdu called Meizi Joe. And it's like pretty iconic. It's like super sweet, and it's like, yeah, it's like it's like made like in the countryside and then shipped in. It's like delicious, and it's a special drink. Strongly recommend Meizi Joe, but you need like the local kind.
Right.
so so anyways, yeah, I'm like drinking in front of Funky Town, and then I meet Ihao, who's the drag queen character, and he's like, "Oh, you're a filmmaker from LA. When are you gonna make a movie about me?" And I'm like, "How about Saturday night?" And he's like,
Right.
"Okay, cool." And then we just started doing it. And the beginning years of the film were meeting up with 9 of my friends from Chengdu. We'd meet up at roughly 10 p.m. We'd film like getting ready for the night, like, putting makeup on, and then we'd film people going out and partying and getting fucked up, falling in love, figuring out the meaning of life and throwing up, going home and going to bed. And we'd usually end at 10 a.m. So that was like the beginning of the film. We just filmed people going out. And it was cool because yeah, like we were invited to do this. It was kind of like when we're filming in Chengdu, it's almost like I feel like a lot of the protagonists were like, "Yo, check out my camera crew." Like we're, like some kind of like everyone feels like a celebrity, you know? And
Right.
what's cool is we're partying and filming at the same time. It's not like we're far away, like watching this happen. It's like I want to party and like I think you're amazing, so let's drink together and film. And oftentimes it's like a drink in one hand and the camera in the other, like kind of experience. So yeah, it just like film like production was really fun, and it just kind of happened. But then, yeah, as we got closer to the characters, we started filming during the daytime, and during the day is when we deal with our real problems. And so Funky Town is kind of like our magical escape. It's like our nighttime. Like we have this dark, hidden bar that's like literally hidden behind the construction site, like in this like little corner of this busy intersection in the middle of the city, but no one can see it because of the construction. So we have this like safe space to be wild and crazy. And then like as soon as the construction finished, that's why like revealing Funky Town to the world is what causes it to close down. And so we kind of saw that in advance. We're like, there's no way that this can exist here. Like this is too incredible and too special. And as soon as this construction's done, Funky Town's probably gonna go. Like we saw that from the beginning, and so that was kind of like our approach as a story arc. Like we saw that arc,
Wow.
and then we're like, okay, we're gonna find the narrative of each individual character as we go. And so everyone has their own story, but everyone goes to Funky Town because Funky Town is like all nights end in Funky Town, you know, like
Right.
you always go. So everyone is kind of like interweaving together by going to Funky Town as they pass the construction. And yeah, we kind of saw that from the beginning. But yeah, I mean, it took a long time to piece it together because we filmed 9 different stories, and the finished film is just 5 protagonists, and so we have another 4 stories that didn't even make the cut, and they're
Wow.
really fucking good. Like I love those stories, and those characters didn't really go to Funky Town that often, and so it didn't really fit in with the other narratives.
Right.
So like my next film is I'm trying to piece together these 4 characters and figure out a new film. And it's their stories are all kind of related to being young and falling in love, and like they're all it's a little bit happier. It's the tentative title is the first year of lightness because there's
Oh,
a
I love that so much.
there's a baby that gets born in that in that film. So it's a
Yes.
little more positive. This one is a little dark. I mean, it has its darkness, but it's like a fun film, and yeah.
It's
Yeah.
so gorgeously shot, Ben. How did you manage the visual consistency over 5 years? What cameras were you using? Like, how did you manage it to look the same? Like, I couldn't tell, like, the time gap. Like, you can't tell, like, oh, yeah, they changed equipment or something like that.
Yeah, so the film started out, we did have a number of cinematographers and we did use a variety of cameras. They were all small A7S cameras
Okay.
because it's such low light that we needed something that could shoot at night, and we needed something that wasn't like big. So
Right.
because we're like it's
Kind
pretty
of
low key.
spacey.
Like we
Yeah.
yeah. And we wanted to keep our team pretty small. So in the beginning, there were really like there was one cinematographer, but because of COVID, he got trapped in Thailand. His name is Mike Mogler. He was the first DP. He shot the first 10 days, I think, but then yeah, he couldn't come back, and so then we brought on Faye Yan Cho to be our cinematographer, and she's a really amazing established cinematographer from Shanghai that I do commercial work with, and she brings a certain level of expertise, but the problem is that she lives in Shanghai and she's a working professional, so she couldn't come party with us like on a dime, you know. So
Right.
she couldn't come all the time. So what we ended up doing is she trained Gena, the Russian DJ, how to shoot and taught him all this professional knowledge of like in rules of cinematography. And then Gena shot I think probably 60 to 70% of the film, which was really
Wow.
cool because what we found is that Gena has such great relationships with everybody in the film. And so everyone feels more comfortable and natural around Gena. And like,
Right.
yeah, of course, sometimes they're like, yo, Gena, cheers, like while we're filming, and we can't use that. But then it's like, we just cut around that, and it kind of became a natural experience. Yeah, so that was the cinematography. Look, I don't think we used, I think there was only a couple scenes that we lit. I don't think there was really lighting
Wow.
ever. But like the places we're filming in the interiors at night are so colorful and so
Right.
interesting. And then outside, the architecture of Chengdu is incredible and so interesting and so unique. And it's also so cinematic. So like,
Right.
yeah, we're kind of like going off natural light, and then yeah, like just I mean, we're trying to be careful with our framing, right? So like positioning people where natural light can hit their faces and make them, look better. But it's pretty fly on. I mean, a majority of the film is fly on the wall, like 89. So 89% of the film is just like observational, like watching this happen, and then 11% is fiction recreations. And those recreations, we would sometimes have a bigger crew on set where we would sometimes have up to 15 people, whether it's like people who are lighting the scene or like ACs or cast members or casting directors. And so like yeah, it got a little bit more on the fictional recreations. We had a bigger team. But even still we're trying to make it match. So
Right.
like our
Yeah.
fiction language, the way we're shooting it is still the same language as the observational film, so that way it feels cohesive throughout.
And it does. It feels completely cohesive. For like, I was shocked when I read that it was like a 5-year shoot. It was just like mind blowing to me that you made it look so cohesive when it was over such a long period of time. So you've mentioned a couple times now that there are shots where you sort of straddle the line between fiction and reality. Is there, and I think it's well done, is there a line that you thought to yourself as one of those rules that you came up with, like, hey, we're not going to go and do X? Like, was there sort of like a left and right limit of like what you were willing to do and what was like sort of off limits?
Mm, I think we found that language as we went. Like we kind of figured out our language of what works as recreations as we go. And I think, for instance, we realized that when you cut in the middle of a scene, it kind of breaks it and feels too like it feels too narrative.
Takes you out of it. Yeah.
Yeah, because in a documentary, observational documentary setting where we're just recording, there's no time to like cut and then someone says a different take and then cut like an act like a shot reverse shot, you know what I mean? Like we can't do the full coverage and cut between it and have it feel natural. So generally speaking, during these we would do it just be kind of like a play. Like it would have to be like a wide shot where we're just filming and then something happens and then it all happens within the scene. And so people are like performing like the same way that they would do a play, but they're like mini scenes that are sometimes, I feel like the longest one was maybe like 6 minutes or so, you know? They're not like that long.
Right. Amazing. And so can you elaborate a little bit on the sound? So you mentioned that a
Mhm.
lot of it was just like the sound from the ambient sound, which also is just, like, incredible as well. Blows my mind that we're able to use all that.
Yes. So specifically music, right? Or like not
Yeah.
sound design.
Both. Yeah, both. Like, I'm fascinated why it was such a mood. The film was such a mood. Like, I came out feeling like I had just gone to the club. And that's the perfect thing, right? Is it like so much of a film should not just be about the visual image. I mean, that's a big part of film, obviously, but it should like transport you to wherever you're going, whether it's a foreign country or a different place, or, if you're in a restaurant, whatever. And I got that sense of like, oh, I just spent the night in the club, and a lot of it has to do with the sound and music design.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think that's the beauty of it is techno music really saved all of our lives. Like I really just I mean, we all fucking love techno music and techno parties, and there's just something amazing about being a little bit fucked up, being on the dance floor, and the storytelling of techno music is slow. The BPM is fast, but when you're listening to a set, that's like an hour long or longer, the storytelling doesn't go that fast. It's like you're listening to one type of vibe, like one energy, and you're in it and you're experiencing it and you're dancing and you're drinking and you're surrounded by your friends and then you're kind of like you're just there. It's what I love about a techno party is it's like an interactive storytelling experience where the DJ is controlling your experience, like he's or whoever it is, like they're providing the music and they're providing like the soundscape, but your experience of like what you're dancing and who you're with is your own to like go on your own adventure. And so for me, it's like you're listening to the song and you're listening, and then slowly over 10 to 20 minutes, the music's changing and the story is building and enhance and like changing. And like you can close your eyes and you're like getting more fucked up. And then you turn and your friend is like right next to you and you like give your friend a hug or whoever, and then you're like hugging on this dance floor and you're all like sweaty and you feel a little bit dizzy and you're like a little nauseous, but you're loving it and you're, I don't know, your heart's racing and you're getting endorphins from exercising as you're dancing. And then the music changes again. And it's like it slows down. And what I love about techno is it's subtle. It's not like an aggressive,
In
like
your
in a
face.
3 minute song where we're going super fast and then super slow and then, like how a lot of what was considered like EDM or like dubstep, it's just like these really fast like drops and like you try to reach this like peak in a really short period of time. It's like those are kind of cheap thrills compared to the slow build of a techno party. And so yeah, like we just have this love for the magic of these parties and these and the music behind it, because the music is the foundation. And so I think, yeah, like the music was the starting point, and we knew that from the beginning that the music that is played in Chengdu has to kind of create the soundscape for the film. And we didn't really need too much music to come from my perspective or from anyone else's perspective or really add into the film, because there's so much music playing all the time. It's like it
Right.
really is a music film. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
like we're
completely.
it's not really about musicians, because DJs aren't really musicians, they're curators. And so like these curators are kind of like they're providing the tracks for us in the in the language. And it's interesting because I some people might say our film feels like there isn't that much music. Like I think if you watch an average Netflix documentary, there's probably more cues of music, or there's maybe like wall to wall music where like it starts with a vibe, and then filmmakers use musicians to really like control your experience as an audience
Exactly.
member
Yep.
as you go. But I have like a really strong take on that and feel like as an audience member, we need to be more engaged. And I hope that the I hope that the audiences that see this film will be able to choose how they feel and choose their experience. And we can provide a look into the music that's playing in Chengdu. And it doesn't necessarily tell you how to feel, but it can inspire some sort of feelings aside from the Kimberly Gujung tracks. Those are the only, I think we have like three where she plays guzheng, which is the Chinese traditional instrument, and has a score to it. But other than that, yeah, it's like there's I think there's just over 50 pieces of music throughout the film, but some are only held for like 2 seconds. And so sometimes we're able to use fair use to clear it. But
Okay.
I mean, like that was a huge question with lawyers. Like we've gone through the film many times, and
Right.
there's a lot of rules that I've learned about how fair use works, of how long will you use it, and you have to turn down the volume and then try to turn up the dialogue and not draw attention to it, or if someone's making commentary in some sort of way based off of the music, then it's like okay with fair use. So that was a cool learning curve for me. And then yeah, like I think some of the like I wanted to keep it as authentic to Chengdu as possible, but some of the songs we needed to hold on the shot for longer than 15 seconds, and so we couldn't use that song for fair use. And then we'd reach out to the artist, and it was too expensive, so we would replace the song with songs that either a lot of the songs Genna made, like the Genna is like a huge role in the film. He's one of the stars of the film. He like introduced me to a lot of people. He's a cinematographer. And also we have a lot of music that the owner of Funky Town made, whose name is Kaiser. It's co-owned by Kaiser and Weiwei. And Kaiser is a musician as well, and so he gave some music to the film. And then there's David from U2 Kim Woo, who provided an infinite number of songs. And then actually there's one song where Bobby like sang on the track. Like Bobby is the editor of the film, and he went to the sound mix, and we had to replace his song. And so, like David was making a song to replace the track, and then he's like, "Okay, we just need you to say some like futuristic science stuff." And so Bobby's like in there, and he's like, I don't even remember. He's like, space travel is summer. Like some like ad lib that they sometimes would feature in a techno song, and it like lowered the volume and mixed it so it sounds like it's coming from a phone, and it works really great. So yeah, I mean, the music was really a journey. and even licensing Life on Mars was such a journey. It took like months to talk to every single party. I think there's like 7 different rights holders for Life on Mars, and we knew we needed this song because it's just like Ehao chose this song. Ehao performed to this song, and it wasn't like a planned thing, but when he performed to it, we're like, holy shit, the words that David Bowie was singing for Life on Mars are so applicable to all of our characters. And Ehao is like choosing it and delivering this incredible show. And so we knew we had to get it, and it took, yeah, I think it took like, I mean, probably over a year, honestly, of Deirdre from YouTube, and we're trying to reach out to every single license holder. And also, Ehao picked a version of the song that was sung at Fashion Rocks as a live performance. It wasn't even like the most standard Life on Mars song. So it was like very like unique song with specific rights holders, and it was very expensive. I think like a lot of our music budget went to Life on Mars just to get this song in the film. But I mean, it was totally worth it. Like I think that's the thing that I feel like people contact us the most is like, wow, Life on Mars was such a powerful ending, and or such a powerful like way to combine everyone's narrative. And yeah, I think so too because the film isn't so direct. You know, it's not like all right, I'm just riffing now. So like
No,
whenever you
yeah, no, I
or
love it. I'm agreeing with everything you're saying. Like, it's not hitting your like the thing I hate most about documentaries. It's like, okay, man, I get your point. I get what you're trying to say, and at
yeah,
no
yeah,
point did you try to do that in the documentary. Like, you never came in and it was like, here, I'm trying to tell you, we're having a good time. Like, you use the medium to show that, and that just what was one of the amazing things about the film.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'm glad you see that because yeah, it was, years of work.
But I did want to ask you go down the rabbit hole a little bit on the music because that was the one thing that shocked me when I found out about like music documentaries, like how hard like you think like oh make a music documentary the coolest thing ever, and it's actually not because you'll just spend like years of the process just getting the rights to the music, which blew
Yeah.
me away when I first found out about this. But is there any advice like if you could go back? Would it have been like involving the lawyers earlier? Is there any sort of advice you have from somebody who wants to make a similar documentary and it's like music that'll be easy? No, it's going to be fucking hard. Like any
hmm
advice that you have for that person going through the process from the beginning?
Yeah, I mean, for sure. I think learning as learning as much as you can about it beforehand will definitely pay off
Yeah,
in the process. And we got really good guidance from actually talk to the director of All These Sleepless Nights. Have you seen that film?
I haven't.
It's it's a it was one of the big references for us because it's also sort of doc fiction hybrid, and it's also a party movie, but it's in Poland. It's a Polish party movie,
Oh, cool.
and
I'll have to see.
there's there's a lot of big songs in that too. And so we talked to him about his process. And what he did was like I think the sound equipment wasn't as developed as it is now when he did it because he would shoot these elaborate scenes that like music is playing in the background and then he can't license the song so he would ADR he ended up having to ADR like all the dialogue and then
Oh,
recreate in sound design the background and then add another
oh,
song and it took him like I think like years to do the sound design alone. But fortunately for us, like when we when we went to sound design, there's like technology that YouTube and Woo has mastered where if like two people are talking with a lav mic on, David figured out how to remove the song, even in a club, like when you're like yelling to be heard, and he can take the
wonderful.
techno song out and then put another one in. So like, fortunately, technology had improved by the time that we were like that deep in the edit, and so that like really saved our ass. And then also, I mean, yeah, it just depends on your take. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
if you want to put a famous song that you really like into a film, into a documentary, like it's really difficult. You
Yeah.
know? It's extremely
Agreed.
difficult to be like, "Oh man, like I love this Kanye West song. I'm gonna just put it in and then cut however I want." Like, good luck
Yeah.
unless you have like a ton of money. You know what I mean?
Or
So
you know Kanye or something. Yeah.
yeah, or whoever, like any major artist is, because like, and the sad thing is that the artist isn't really seeing much money from that usually. It's like
Yeah,
the
exactly.
the team behind it that's like capitalizing off of it. But like, I mean, they're right, and you're right. Like, music is the one of the most powerful art forms that really hits so many people, and so like I understand why the music industry is as evil as it is, or it's like
Right.
tricky to navigate. I think that's a more diplomatic way to say, like, but like, yeah. So I knew, but fortunately for our film, I didn't want to include too many songs like that. I don't think it was our intention, and we wanted to capitalize off of music that's actually played and like diegetic music. But yeah, if you know the rules of fair use and talk to a lawyer ahead of time, I mean, I think there's a couple of rules that if you know, like for instance, I think it's 15 seconds. If you hold the shot for less than 15 seconds, if there's a song playing and someone talking, and then you turn the volume down, generally speaking, a lawyer will cover you in the case of a lawsuit. So like, I think that's like one of the rules to know. And then two, if there is some sort of commentary about the song, it's usually okay. But it's a very fine line. Like for instance, there's a part in the film where Ehao is like in his room and he wrote Beyonce lyrics on the wall and he sings the Beyonce song. And that shot is like 25 seconds and he's just singing. It's not even playing. But we still had to talk to Beyonce's team to license it. And like that was I think they gave us a pretty good deal because it wasn't that much and there was no music playing. And it's
Right.
like, you know, it's supporting Beyonce, like it's not a negative thing. And so, yeah, we got a pretty good deal. But yeah, we still had to pay. Like Beyonce's music's not even playing. Like someone is singing Beyonce's song. You know what I mean? Like,
That's incredible. And everyone, check with your lawyer. The two Bens here don't want to get sued because you're taking legal advice from our podcast here.
yeah, yeah,
Check with
yeah.
your lawyer before,
100%.
this is only just, some nice advice for you, but check with your lawyer before listening to any of this. So, uh,
Yeah, for sure.
Ben,
Not alone.
you're right. Not neither of us are lawyers, just trying to help you out. Uh,
Yeah.
Because I totally could see that happening. Somebody being like, "Well, it was there 15 seconds, and now I'm getting sued. I'm gonna
Yeah.
sue your
And
podcast."
so
Nope, nope.
then we get
Here's our
sued.
disclaimer: we're not
Yeah,
lawyers.
yeah.
Go
True,
check it
true.
out.
Good call. Good
So,
call.
yeah, completely. So, Ben, I want to talk a little bit about documentary filmmaking in general, and like I think most people, outside the film industry, imagine it like a guy or a gal like in an archive somewhere is like, organizing things and making their documentary the old way. And I feel like the new generation of people coming up don't want to see that. So if you are getting started in the business and you're not lucky enough to, have like the artistic talent that you have, like you're doing commercials, like obviously you have a talent, an eye for this that, you can't say that everyone has. Like, what do you think the path there is for somebody? Should they be like learn as much as they can? Should they be starting a YouTube channel, getting a following that way? Like, how do you break into this without, having that sort of education through like advertising through film school and make documentaries that can resonate with audiences today?
I think like everybody's different, but what inspired me was I looked at Spike Jonze' IMDb page one time, and that guy made over 100 music videos before he made a single film.
Wow.
And to me, it's like it was really inspiring. Like, damn, like I've only done like 50 or so projects, like, and they're like, whether they're student films or short films. Like, I need to get to a hundred, or I need to get to a certain number before I can even have this ethos that I'm like good or know what I'm doing. Like
Right.
I think there's like just an insane amount of work that we have to put in, and trial and error and mistakes that we have to make to get to that point. And so I feel like my advice to people who are entering the industry is just like go do it. Go do it for as cheap as possible and like do it with all your friends. and, you know, figure it out and make mistakes because that's the only way you'll learn and the only way you'll do it. I mean, I feel like so many people I know are like, ah, man, I just really want to make a feature film, but like I don't have funding for it. You know, that's the common thing.
Yep.
And I just think like, well, just don't fund it. Like, just make it. You
Right.
know, if you have to shoot it yourself on an iPhone and then edit yourself and then make the music and then sound design it, then just do it. You know,
And you
like
made it. You know, it's done.
right. And if it sucks, then you'll realize that and then
Right.
you'll have that
Get
knowledge of
better.
like, okay, next time I know why it sucked and I'm going to make it better. Or if it's great, then like you're going to be seen and people will know about it and you'll be able to make another thing. So, I mean, I think that we just I mean, I don't know. There is a lot like this industry kind of sucks and that there's a lot of problems in it, obviously. Like there isn't the industry isn't that big. Only certain people get hit up. There's a lot of nepotism. Like there's a lot of inequality in who gets what bids and who gets what projects. Like the film industry is not the best industry and it's like very lucrative for a select few. And it's also very like certain people are known or certain people get access to a limited number of resources and everybody wants to be a part of it. And like, yeah, this is my second feature film, but like I'm not rich, you know, like I'm still out here trying to make money and like have to hustle. So I don't know. I feel like my advice is you just got to do it. Like we just have to put in the work and try it and fuck up and like yeah, like I don't know. There's nothing stopping us from just going to do it other than us saying like, ah, well, it's not shot on Alexa. How can it be great? Like, doesn't
Right.
matter anymore.
Yeah.
You know,
No.
like the like the storytelling always comes first, and I think all those other things like you kind of you get more of as you get better.
So, Ben, what's next for you? So, are you going to use like this next week to just be like pounding it out and just being like getting out there and being like, look, my film is on Mubi. You know, here can let's make my next project. Are you going to be chilling? Are you going to be, you know, taking it easy and enjoying it? Like, what's the next 6 months or so look like for you?
Yeah, so I am actively trying to develop and fund my next project, which is The First Year of Lightness, starring the characters
Love
that
it.
didn't make it into The Last Year of Darkness. So, and what's cool about that film is it's basically, we have a rough cut already made. We might reshoot a couple days, but everyone's still on the ground in Chengdu. And we just need money to pay for the post to finish it. And yeah, so I'm searching for funds and kind of working with different producers to try to finish that project. So that's my next one. I also I also wrapped production on a new feature film. It's called Serious People, and it's a comedy about how us music video directors are very serious people. And it takes place in Los Angeles, featuring my good friend Pascual Gutierrez as he becomes a father and is confronted with an industry that will not say it's okay to take time off when your baby's born. So that
Damn.
film, it's in post. It's in post, and we will probably finish up this year. So those are my two next projects that I'm immediately trying to, I guess, finish as well as develop and finance.
Fucking love it. I love that story so much. And I feel like that's hardly ever told, right? From his perspective, serious people. Like, I don't think, I can't think of another film like that. Can you? Like, you know, what, what inspiration is there for that? Like, you know, it had to have been, uh,
I
that's
think
blowing my mind, Ben.
that film is like that one's pretty weird. That one's like Pasquale had a dream one day and then he woke up and he called me the next day and he's like, "Yo, Ben, you got to come back from China and make this movie with me. Like I had this dream." And I was
Holy
just like,
shit.
"Okay, sure, let's do it." And then it just evolved from there and that was another example of like just everybody who we're friends with really came through to help because it's not my first film, but it's my friend Pasquale's first film, and he has a lot of friends who just love him and wanted to do favors. And so we made that for extremely cheap, and people were like working their ass off all for the love of the movie. And yeah, I think it's going to be really good. It's like it's kind of like a Nathan for You episode, but it's also it looks like a Roy Anderson pigeon sat on a branch style film if you've seen that.
Wow. Yeah.
It's like pretty weird and pretty I don't know, we'll see. We'll see. I think it's going to work. And that one's a little bit closer to fiction than Last Year of Darkness, but it's still on the spectrum, you know? Like we got to smash this binary of narrative and doc, you know? Like come
Yeah.
on, it's all it's all it's all a spectrum.
Love that so much. And so it sounds like I'm going to give you two cracks at the apple here. Talking about Pascal's film, it should be amazing. Is there another film, indie filmmaker or film that people can watch that you think like, I wish more people knew about it? That you tell your friends, like, man, if you only saw this, something like that.
Yeah, so I've been on the festival circuit this year, and there's two films that come to mind that I think are fucking great from this year. The first one is this film called Queendom, which was made by my friend Agnia, and it's just an incredible story about a drag artist from Eastern Russia and kind of during the time of when Russia declares war on Ukraine, what's going on and how that artist faces their family, and it's done in this beautiful stunning way. And yeah, I think that film, I just fucking loved it. Like I remember when we saw it at IDFA, I was sitting next to Ihao, the protagonist of our film, and I was like, damn, why didn't we shoot shit like this? Like they're geniuses. you know? So I think that one was really cool. And then also there's this incredible film called Knits Island. This is like I feel like you would love this. I feel like this is super genre bending too. Or I've just never seen a film like this because it takes place entirely in a video game. It's like
Really?
you're in this apocalyptic video game, and it's one of those games. I don't even know how to explain it because I don't know the language for video games because I usually don't like video games, but I fucking love this film because you're exploring this world. It's like one of those apocalypse games where you're like running around and you're like like interacting with people, and it almost becomes about like the online like online experience of connecting with people versus the actual game itself. And so these three French filmmakers who I've become really good friends with, like after like when I met them at Visions Do Real where they premiered, they they enter this video game and they're just like going around and playing for like I think almost 1,000 hours on this video game, and they're like meeting different people who play the game and interacting with them and learning about them, and it just like it blew my mind because I was sitting in the front of the theater and I'm looking up at this video game and I'm like blown away how beautiful it is. There's like incredible sound design, and I just felt like wow, like I love traveling and exploring the world, and I think like when I go to nature, that's when I realize how important life is. Or like seeing sunrise, you're like, oh yeah, like it's important to be alive because this is fucking beautiful and I get to see it. Like I have that, like that's my hippie statement for you, or like outlook on the world. But I think what this game did is it gave me that same feeling. It's like, damn, you can explore a video game and you can be like running through this meadow and like talking to people that you don't know what they look like from around the world and like connecting in this way. And then you like shoot some zombies, and then you like you hear about there's this elusive character who's been playing this game for 30 years and like has these secret like caves, and then you explore the caves and like they're beautiful and it's all in a video. I don't know, it just like brought this magic of existence to me. And yeah, I don't know, I just really connected with all the characters. And there's this love story in the film between this couple who plays the game like after their kid goes to bed, and it's like their escape, like they're just playing this video game. And I don't know, I just thought their life was really fascinating and beautiful. So yeah.
Love that. And that's how I felt when I watched your film, Ben. I was just sort of like, this can be like, it's so wonderful when you can see the medium expanded, right? Like I feel like you were saying that, like when you watch a film and you think, oh, we can do this. And I felt that way
Yeah.
watching your film. Like this expands my vision of what is possible.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I appreciate that. And I think like we're always trying to make something that's a little bit different than what's been seen before. And so I don't know. I mean, I'm very inspired. Like I've been lucky to see quite lot of films that I think have really changed the game. And so, I'm definitely still derivative, but it's like my own take, you know.
Well, the film Last Year of Darkness, it premiered March 15th on Mubi. If you don't have Mubi, just go ahead and subscribe. Get the year subscription. Knock it out. It'll allow you access to great films. This is a phenomenal film. It changed my view of like how to make a documentary, what documentaries can do. It's really good. IndieWire gave it an A, which I don't think I've ever seen IndieWire. Maybe they have, but like that must have been like blowing your mind too, Ben, when you saw that like A.
Yeah, blew my mind. Like back in school, get grades.
So don't take my word for it. Take IndieWire. Take anyone who watches this. It's fantastic. And the sequel should be coming out at some point. My First Year of Lightness. Look for that over the next year. Thanks so much for joining me on the podcast. This was so much fun, and I'm looking forward to following your career.
Woohoo! Thanks so much. I really appreciate it. Blast talking to you.
Thanks for listening to the First Time Go podcast. The goal is to make life a little easier for independent creators. So if you're with me for that, please give the podcast a 5-star review wherever you download your podcast. It's free and helps expand the reach for the creators on the show. Expanded membership is available through Directors Club. You get access to season 1, early episodes when available, and other subscription benefits. Sign up now through Red Circle. The link is in the show notes. Check out the podcast YouTube channel if you'd like to watch a select number of episodes of the podcast and the Indie Film Highlight, posted every Sunday. Thanks again for listening and helping creators get their first time go.